Kentucky went 4-6 in the regular season last year, added a Gator Bowl win against NC State to finish 5-6 overall. As we look to the upcoming season, we do have a change at offensive coordinator. They're bringing in Liam Cohen to direct artsy movies and call the offense. He's got an NFL background. And, the quarterback position is going to be interesting. I guess that we're going to go with Beau Allen, but Joey Gatewood's still there. And Will Levis, who kind of flashed for a hot minute, is going to be joining the program in the summer. So Will Levis, not going to be there for spring practice, but something to keep in mind. Nick Scalza and Kaya Sharon rounding out that quarterback room in Lexington. Offensively, we remember that Christopher Rodriguez was a little bit of kind of a battering ram running behind that good offensive line, and that offensive line should be pretty strong again. But the game changer here is Wandel Robinson, right? Coming over from being one of the best players on Nebraska's offense, stepping in. If is he all cleared and eligible to play? Are we waiting on anything for Robinson?
I don't believe
Pretty sure
so.
he's good.
Yeah.
That is for me just an instant impact. Defensively, I feel like we're missing. I mean, we were spoiled. We were spoiled for a little bit, but I don't really see like dynamic pass rushers. I mean, I just don't know if there's somebody in that Kentucky defensive front that scares me after we were just sort of trading out elite Kentucky edge players, it seemed like, for about 3 or 4 seasons. So as we look ahead to the Wildcats, I don't see enough to make me think this is going to be anything other than a really, really, really tough out. High floor, low ceiling, going to be competitive, going to stick to the identity. Is there anything that's leading y'all to think that it might be anything but or other than that? And what might we learn this spring that would point to it?
I think it's the same question we've had with Kentucky for the last few years, and it's what are you going to get from the QB position? Because if you look at this team in recent seasons, when it's had success and when it hasn't, the defense has generally been solid. And yes, Chip, you're right. There really isn't the kind of known name edge rushing kind of player on this defense for everybody right now. But I think that since he's come there, Mark Stoops and that defense, they've done a good job of developing guys. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see somebody emerge in that role in the defense. I expect to be pretty solid. They've been good on special teams, but the question for the Wildcats has always been their offensive ceiling, and that's mostly been due to being the quarterback position where, like, there's a very good argument that the best quarterback Kentucky's had in the Mark Stoops era was their wide receiver, who had to take the job because every other quarterback got hurt, and then just they built the entire offense around him and things worked. So I think that's where the focus for me is going to be on in the spring, to see what we get there, if they can get any kind of quarterback play, because I do think that if this offense with Wandel Robinson coming in, that's a huge weapon to have. Competent QB play, competent defense, good special teams in this division in 2021, whereas we've discussed, there's a lot of wiggle room. And I don't think Mizzou is a clear-cut, front runner, no doubt number 3 team in the division. There's a chance for that, for Kentucky to be that number 3 team in the division. And if things go right and they stay healthy, to approach that 8-9 win level for 2021. So for me, when I look at this team, yeah, it's not the kind of team where they've recruited well, but it's not the kind of level where you sit there and think they're going to be fine no matter who they lose, because you lose some significant players. And like everybody else in the division, Kentucky loses a lot of key production at a lot of different spots. So there are questions, and we're going to see that in the spring. But to me, like I said at the top, it's all going to come back to the quarterback position, because even if everything else goes well, if you don't solve that QB problem that you've had, it's not going to matter.
So I'm interested in this because they did make a change at offensive coordinator, right? And they went ahead and brought in Liam Cohen, who was with the I almost said St. Louis Rams, excuse me, the LA Rams. And I just don't know. This might work, but it also might not work. And Tom, you nailed it with the QB thing. And remember, like, Will Levis doesn't even get there until the fall. Mm-hmm. And if you want somebody to throw the football, I don't know that it's Joey Gatewood. Right. And I don't know that it's Nick Scalzo. Maybe it is. My guess is that Levis is going to make a pretty big difference there when he gets there. But, like, was Kentucky's offense, I just don't think this move is without risk, right? They were a good running football team. Their identity was play pretty good defense. And they were a below average, but not terrible offense pretty consistently. They ran the ball. They kind of complemented what their defense was doing. They didn't really score points that much, but like they didn't totally screw it up. They were usually low turnover because they did run the ball. Like they were actually good at running the ball. And I look clear to like Mark Stoops made the change because he thinks his program can be better. I don't know that it can, right? Sometimes you risk going up against your ceiling and you kind of fall back to your floor some. So I'm interested to see how this works, right? If they just start trying to chuck it around and they're not good at it, do they lose their identity running the football? Will they be as good running the ball? You know, I don't know. I'm not super convinced on that. Defensively, we've talked about this a lot. Your defensive like performance ratings pretty closely track what you recruit. It is much more about height, weight, speed, and hustle than it is, you know, like on the offensive side, you can kind of coach your way to some points. Kentucky beat the odds year after year after year under Stoops. And it's just a hard thing to do every year. So they are going to have some years where they just don't have awesome edge rushers or, you know, guys who are beasts at safety. Maybe they'll bounce back, but they do got to replace Boogie Watson on the edge, and that's not easy. I mean, maybe Jordan Wright, maybe Justice Dingle, the Georgia Tech transfer. I think I like Missouri better than Kentucky so far going into spring. We'll see what we learn.
I do too. I think I'm back.
Hello.
A bit frustrating. With Kentucky, totally agree with everything you said. Running off Eddie Gran after what he did 2 years ago. Remember when Lyndon Bowden Jr. was playing, quarterback as a converted wide receiver, and they cobbled together a pretty good offense. It almost made me wonder. And it's kind of the same lines of thinking of Tom's, hey, run the triple option thread. Like it was, it wasn't traditional. It was something teams had to prepare for. He could run all over the place, and it was a headache for teams to prepare for. It almost makes you wonder if Kentucky is better off doing something along those lines than trying to find your traditional quarterback with a traditional system. So I do think there's some pressure on the offense and Liam Cohen as they're coming in there. The quarterbacks have been a complete mess. Joey Gatewood has had opportunity after opportunity. You feel like, hey, if he hasn't taken control by this point, then, there's something off. Like what maybe his development, lack of development, maybe he's just not the guy. So who is it going to be becomes more of a significant question. And, the problem with running these quarterback competitions in the spring, and when you have multiple guys who are battling for it, you lose valuable reps. Like at Georgia, JT Daniels is getting reps that he is getting ready, that he's going to see in the fall. These, you miss out on a lot of reps because you have to balance things out. You have to give guys equal opportunity. Hey, we want to make sure we have a fair quarterback competition. And that sometimes sets you back what you want to implement offensively. So that's a challenge. I'm with you guys on Missouri over Kentucky in the East.
So what about Beau Allen? Son of a coach from Lexington. What do we think?
I think we're going to go with Nick Scalzo, QB1 fame from my hood, my stomping grounds, Fort Lauderdale's Cardinal Gibbons. I literally, at my old house, I could hear the football field on Friday nights at Cardinal Gibbons. It was like 2 blocks from me. But he's been hurt. But Beau Allen, that's the question mark. Like, I don't know. Like maybe he's the guy, maybe not, but I don't feel comfortable with no answer on the plate just yet.